Welcome in, everyone, and thank you for listening to the 223rd ever episode of the Missouri Sports Podcast, brought to you by 106 Apparel and recording from the Revel Advertising Studio in beautiful Springfield, Missouri. I'm one of your hosts, Cameron Albert, alongside my good friend and fellow Mizzou fan, Kyle DeVries. How are you doing today, Kyle?
I'm doing great, Cameron. How about you?
I'm doing well. We got something to look forward to this weekend.
It's got a rivalry brewing.
And we'll be there.
We'll be there.
That's the big announcement this week. We are going to be there for the Border Showdown.
It's the announcement, special announcement.
Special alert. We are going to be in the building.
I can't even sit still, man. I'm so excited.
You ever been to a Mizzou, Kansas basketball game?
I never have.
Never have. Producer Cameron?
No.
None of us have been.
Okay.
So what's the most hype environment? Oh, I guess we know the answer to that. The most hype Mizzou basketball environment I've been to was with you.
Yes.
The Iowa State game, first game of the Conzo Martin era, Michael Porter Jr. We know how that went.
Yeah.
But it was electric.
It was electric for
that whole game.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. It was.
Kevin Purrier had an awesome game.
Tillman. That was Tillman's first game ever.
Yeah. Super fun.
Students were into that.
Yeah, there was fire. It was loud.
Yeah. It's going to be...
It's hard to imagine a more electric atmosphere, but it will be just... I think it'll be noticeably... I don't know. The buzz will be in the air.
Yeah. Like, how can they take it up a notch from that? Like, they'll be, like, maybe literally someone will, like, eat a bird or something. Like a sacrifice a bird.
Yeah, I feel like like
a Jayhawk.
Yes, the atmosphere around the Iowa State game was, like, very excited. Mm-hmm. I feel like this one will be like
hate
and like almost like a delirious frenzy.
Yeah, especially if we're
that's
like
what I'm going to be
playing
looking for anyway.
Oh, yeah, we're just going to be.
Yeah, I'm still. I guess everything I'm imagining is like pregame warm-ups and like announcing the teams and then like the first couple minutes, because it's in my nature to think bad things are going to happen. And I know nothing bad can happen before tip-off.
That's true.
So that's when, in my head, that's when it's going to be
craziest.
At
least like 5 minutes of frenzy.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with you.
40 minutes, we hope.
Yeah.
I'm planning on 40 minutes of frenzy.
Me too.
We're going to talk about that game. Obviously, we're going to do a proper football season recap and talk about updated transfer targets and who's leaving the program. Before we get into all of that, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. Leave us a review if you could. You can also support us on Patreon, patreon.com/Missouri Sports Pod. And talking about this Kansas game, it is going to be a tough one, but the Missouri Tiger basketball team is 9-0, which is everything we would have hoped for going into this matchup. Give me your thoughts on the season so far leading into this I'm going to call it historic.
Yeah, I kind of wish this was the first game against Kansas in the series. Obviously, we played last year. It almost feels like we didn't.
Yeah,
and
just forget about it.
Forget about it. Didn't happen. I was not excited for the game when it happened, really. I mean, it was cool, I guess, but I knew what was going to happen, and what I thought was going to happen was exactly what did happen. So, yeah, I wish this was the first one, but we're just going to pretend it is.
I had forgotten about it, Kyle.
Had you really?
In my mind, this was the first one.
You're kidding me. Okay, yes, I'm going along with you.
Okay.
I believe you. And anyways, my thoughts on the season, I think there's been some like national pundits kind of like refusing to buy the hype on Missouri a little bit because of their schedule, and that's fine. I guess that's somewhat reasonable.
One of the worst so far.
I mean, at the same time, though, I feel like this team, or Conzo's team last year, would have probably tripped up against one of these teams somewhere. They would never have beaten Wichita State on the road.
Absolutely.
There were, at least some of those games would have been like dangerously close, more so than they needed to be. I feel like Missouri has put away everybody, really.
Wichita State would have gone on a 16-0 run against Missouri last year.
Except they would have been in at the beginning of the game, and we never would have gotten back into it.
Exactly.
But the SEMO game was like a little bit stressful at the end. But for the most part, though, Missouri's put everybody away, really how you would expect a good team would do. They score in transition. They're just looking for every possible way to slam it down your throat and to score 90 plus a game. So it's been a really, really fun start to the season.
Yeah, I feel like every episode I mention how many dunks Missouri has dunked this year. They're 49th in KenPom right now, so they did take a dip after not looking super impressive against SEMO, mostly on the defensive end. Offensively, though, everything has worked. I mean, there were stretches in the Wichita State game, but they still came back to score 88 points, although in overtime. But on KenPom right now, the Missouri Tigers have the 12th best offense, but the 125th best defense.
Yeah, that's really even without Mosley making much of a difference this year, which I still think that will happen at some point. But yeah, Missouri's offense has just been phenomenal.
4th fastest tempo in the country right now.
A little surprising.
Yeah, but that in itself has been so fun to watch. And honestly, like the way they're playing is like Mike Anderson style, like fastest 40 minutes.
Like aggression.
Yes, just incredibly aggressive on defense. That reminds me of like West Virginia teams from years past that Missouri has played, and it's like so annoying to play against these teams because the refs aren't going to always call all the fouls and everything. Being on the good side of that is really fun. Missouri is 3rd in the nation in effective field goal percentage, offense, and 2nd in 2-point field goal shooting percentage. So everything's clicking on offense, except we're not really getting to the free throw line very much. But
that's what happens when you have a lot of breakaway layups.
True.
You make a lot of shots.
Now, defensively, Missouri, the number 1 team in steal rate on defense. Number 1 team in the country, 4th in turnover percentage defense. They do give up a lot of offensive rebounds, 329th in that stat, so not the best.
Yeah, I think those are the 2 biggest concerns I have for as far as kind of like regression whenever they start playing better teams is like they're not going to be able to get 10 plus steals a game like they have been against these 300 plus KenPom teams. Right. So, how will we get baskets when we can't just rip it out of the other team's hands and get breakaway layups like 15 times a game? Going to have to be better in the half court and have to continue shooting well and get fouled and get to the free throw line. It's going to look a little bit differently against better teams, and then of course, the rebounding is going to be a problem. We've talked about that. Any team with a capable big man, it's going to be a challenge.
And I think the thing that is going to have to get better for Missouri to win games in conference play and some of these tougher non-conference games is their defense guarding 3-point shots.
Oh yeah.
It's been
a
pretty bad so far. And definitely below average there. And they're making up for it somewhat with the steals and the fast break points and stuff like that. But like that's exactly how you're saying that's going to be harder to come by against better teams than those same teams making threes at the rate that Missouri's opponents have been. It's gonna lead to losses. It's gonna be hard to overcome that. We need to talk about Kansas though. This is a marquee matchup, and they are the defending champions. They are 6th in the AP poll, 11th on KenPom, 22nd on offense, 15th on defense. So well-rounded. They're off to a hot start. They're 8-1. They beat Duke already this season by 5. They beat Wisconsin in overtime. Their only loss on the season was to Tennessee, who is like probably a top 5 team. Lost to them by 14 points. Overall, I actually wanted to spotlight Kansas's win over Southern Utah. Southern Utah is the number 169 team in KenPom. Kansas, that was a home game for Kansas. They only won by 6. And the reason I wanted to point this out is because Southern Utah is the 10th fastest tempo team in the country. And they were able to score 76 points against Kansas. But Kansas scored 82. So I'm maybe looking at that game as sort of a blueprint that a team can speed up this Kansas team, turn them over a little bit, and maybe get something done that way.
Mm-hmm. What's their tempo again?
Southern Utah is 10th. You want to know Kansas is? Mm-hmm. Kansas, 147.
Okay.
So just very middle of the road.
Gotcha. Yeah, definitely an opportunity there. I do feel like, we just talked about how the rebounding is going to be an issue. If any teams we run into have like competent size on the inside, it's going to be a huge challenge. But I don't think Kansas necessarily presents that specific challenge. I think Missouri has a chance to match up really well with them guard wise and not have a tremendous issue with him on the inside. So I think that's definitely something we have going for us there.
Yeah, to look at some of the top contributors for Kansas, we all know DeJuan Harris, the guard from Columbia. He's a junior this year, one of the best assist guys in the country. He is like a prototypical high assist, high ball pressure defense point guard. He generates a lot of steals and sets up his teammates for easy buckets constantly. They've got a sophomore forward, KJ Adams, who reminds me a little bit of Kobe Brown in play style. He doesn't step out to the three-pointer, and he is a little bit undersized down low, so he's not like a traditional post player. He's just super athletic and just really high motor guy. And just watching him on the court, he's just like, he's ripped, like just physical specimen. Impressive. But not...
Don't compliment him too much.
Not the type of post player that I think is going to give Missouri fits as far as rebounding and easy baskets. But they kind of... I feel like they're going to do okay if Missouri wants to speed up the game. I feel like they're going to be prepared for it at least. And guys like Adams running the floor, like big men that can get out in transition and finish, that's going to help Kansas a lot. And then they've got good shooters. Freshman Grady Dick shoots 45% from three. And so, he's going to be leaking out in transition, finding the corner three. So all of those guys can be issues. They have transfer guard from Texas Tech, Kevin McCullough. He's an interesting player because I feel like he plays like an NBA two guard, but is just kind of inconsistent. So he could go for 15 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, just kind of fill in the stat sheet pretty well, but also he can go quiet and get into a shooting slump. So I don't know. There's just like high risk, high reward for this Kansas team. I feel like their best player, I think by far, is Jalen Wilson. He's probably going to be on a lot of people's Player of the Year, National Player of the Year list. He averages 22 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists per game, and shoots 36% from three. He's stretch the floor 4, basically. So I think it'll be really fun seeing how Missouri matches up with these guys on defense. And just looking down the starting lineup, I feel like, honestly, Grady Dick is going to be maybe the toughest guy for Missouri to cover on defense because we've shown that we're going to give up open threes.
Yeah, he makes half his threes already as it is.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, this is far and away the best shooting team Missouri has faced this year. I mean, they haven't even... If Wichita State is the best team you've played so far and their like 3-point shooting is probably like sub 250 Ken Pom or something, like,
and we made them look good at that.
Yes, so that's certainly a concern in this game. Is I'm afraid Kansas is going to shoot 60% from three in this game, and Grady Dick is averaging like 15 a game. So he's going to shoot, and he's going to shoot a lot.
Yeah, one thing that Kansas doesn't do well is shoot free throws or get to the line too often. So that works in Missouri's favor. Mm-hmm. And we know Missouri has enough guys to just kind of throw at the problem.
Yeah.
It's not going to be, being at home and having enough guys to rotate in and out. You wouldn't think fouls are going to be too big of an issue, but if we do get in the bonus early, hopefully Kansas's bad free throw shooting comes into play there. That would be helpful. It's going to take, I think Missouri, if both of these teams are at their best, then I think Kansas is capable of scoring point for point with Missouri, and their defense is enough to hold Missouri to like 65 points. I mean, if both of these teams are playing their very best, probably Kansas wins this game like 65-70. However, and that's probably like a neutral court situation that I'm picturing. This game's at home for Missouri. The crowd's going to be insane.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this Kansas team is really talented, but there are some intangibles in play here for sure. The one big thing is how much they've lost from last year's team. I mean, obviously, they're defending national champions. I don't know that they're in the national championship picture right now with this team, and maybe that changes. I don't know, but I personally don't see it. They were just really experienced, really talented last year, and they lost like 4 of the 5 starters from that team, basically. So I think there's a lot of new guys who have never seen an environment like they're going to see on Saturday, which is awesome. But I think you could almost say that about the Missouri guys too. I mean, obviously we're going to be cheering for them, but I think they could almost be jarring for both teams.
Yeah.
Where it's just going to be so freaking loud,
yeah.
and it's just going to be chaos in that building when anything happens, good or bad, probably. So I think the emotions and nerves are going to be probably in play for both teams.
And so who played? So only Kobe, Caleb, and Ronnie DeGray played in this game last year in Lawrence. So they got to see that environment from the other side.
I'm sure that was pretty crazy.
And I'm sure the coaching staff for both teams have been educating the team on what this game means and like the history of it and all, but more practically for Saturday, what the building is going to be like.
Yeah. No way to dissimulate it though, really.
Right. I mean, yeah, you have to like, if you're Kansas, you gotta be like, remember how fun that was playing in front of our fans in this matchup? It's going to be that, but bad.
Yeah.
And I mean,
yeah, when they see somebody bite the head off a bird, they're going to be shaking in their boots, I promise.
Just, yeah, you know, and just like when he pours the blood all over himself.
Yeah.
I'm assuming a man's going to do that.
It could be, most likely.
And his name's Kyle DeVries.
Yeah. Like, Jayhawk's not even a real bird, so I don't know what we're going to do on that, but we'll find something.
Put shoes on a chicken.
Buckled shoes at that.
And Kyle's just like, we're just like 3 rows from the top of the arena. Like nobody sees him.
No one sees it, but I know it's going to help the team, like spiritually somehow.
Yeah. I feel like that would backfire.
Probably.
I mean, there's no chance I'm not predicting a Mizzou win in this game.
Yeah.
So let's think about what that actually looks like. What does Missouri have to do to win this game? They have to. This has got to be an 80 possession game.
Yeah.
I think. Got to get up and down the floor. We're going to give up open looks. We're going to give up runouts the other way.
Yeah.
Trying to play this way.
Yeah. Honestly, like I feel like the biggest thing that's got to happen in Missouri's favor is it's a bad shooting day for Kansas, whether that's the crowd or whatever it is. We basically just have to pray that Kansas shoots worse than they usually do. And Missouri's 3-point defense is better than it has been.
Even just a slow start for Kansas, because I feel like Missouri, probably both teams are going to struggle shooting from deep early. And so they're probably both teams are going to be looking to get the ball inside and just get some easy baskets in transition to kind of settle everybody down.
Which could play in Missouri's favor.
Right. I have a feeling, though, that Kansas is going to think that they can just play Missouri's game and still win that way. And I hope they try to do that and are unsuccessful, basically. I think if Kansas tries to slow the game down and sort of manage it a little bit more, then I don't think that'll work. I will be surprised if this goes perfectly for Kansas and we get that like 70-65 game. I would be pretty surprised by that. It's not out of the question, but I think that would maybe cause me to rethink how good this Missouri team can be. If Missouri is dictating the tempo and everything and it's just neck and neck the whole way, then that basically shows us Missouri can play with anybody with this style of play.
Yeah, I definitely think Missouri's style of play makes them susceptible to the big runs and everything where, you know, we've seen it a few times already this year where they get cold, but they're still playing fast. They're just running down and missing shots like the other team can just score 10 points in like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So
And that's what happens when you play that style. I mean, we
Yeah.
saw the same thing in the Mike Anderson era. It's like you're never out of it, but then the other team's never out of it either.
Never safe, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like they just have to have the mental fortitude to know that if Kansas goes on a big run and takes a 10-point lead or something like that, they can quickly get back in it, though. So I hope that they keep fighting to the end, which they did against Wichita State.
Yeah. Demoy Hodge shooting threes, I think, is going to be huge. I think like already 3 times this year he's made 4 or more threes in a game. I think Wichita State, he was like 4 for 11 maybe. Let me look it up. I think his 3-point shooting is going to be huge. Yeah, 4 for 11 against Wichita State, 3 for 7 against SEMO, and 4 times this year he has made 4 threes in a game.
I feel like we have to see more Mosley in this game, right? I mean, we just don't know what's going on. Really.
Yeah.
It clearly seems like there's some behind-the-scenes stuff going on. Don't really know whether it's basketball-related or personal life stuff. We don't know. But I just think if we're going to win the game, I think we got to see more Mosley.
I don't know. I feel like if Hodge can make some threes, if Sean East is getting to the basket, getting the free throw line like he has been.
Yeah, Sean East has been playing incredible. He's basically been filling the role of, like, the past 2 games, he's been doing what I thought Mosley was going to be doing.
Yeah.
Just kind of like ISO, like just I'm better than you kind of stuff.
His instincts for like when he's, even after a made basket in transition, and he can just kind of read the situation and know like, I'm just going to get to the rim here and make a layup versus slowing it down or pulling it back out.
Yeah, it's like one of those things where you're like, no, oh, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. At this point, it's like, I just trust him to make the call, basically, because he's right almost every time. And I feel so good about being in close games. In close games, down the stretch, big moments, I feel like he's ready. Noah Carter's ready to knock down a shot. Nick Honor's ready to knock down a shot.
Yeah, those guys look really comfortable.
Yes.
Like 9 games in on a completely new team.
Yes. And I'm really excited to see Trey Gomillion with the hype and everything going into this game. I feel like he could be huge on defense.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think we don't need Mosley to win this game. I think we've seen that this Missouri team is good enough without him to play with anybody. It sure would be nice for him to see an efficient 25 minutes, 12, 13 points or more out of him would be.
I think they've been saving him for this moment.
Ugh.
I'm just joking. I don't think that's a real thing, but that is a theory that I've seen.
Yeah, I don't know.
That secret weapon.
Yeah.
I think they know about him, though.
Yeah, there's something about maybe him on offense just not gelling with the scheme or something.
Yeah.
That just not quite clicking yet. But it feels good knowing that that's not working. So far, we have not seen what we expected there, and Missouri's still 9-0.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I think it's official prediction time.
Dennis Gates gets hired at Missouri, and he's like, all right, let's check out who their rivals are. And he's like, oh, the defending national champion.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, Illinois,
Oh, he
like
knew.
a top 10 team. Oh, nice.
Yeah. No, I think that coaching staff, they knew what they were getting into, and I feel like that. I don't know how early this non-conference slate was scheduled, but knowing that Kansas and Illinois were on the schedule, it was like, okay, let's put as many 300 level teams in there as you possibly can.
Yeah. Their next month is a gauntlet. So
yeah, and I remember
I'm thankful for that 9-0 start.
I remember CY in an interview saying like, there's never an easy enough schedule, in my opinion. Like, there's never enough cupcakes on the schedule. Okay, you ready for official predictions?
I'm ready.
I'm thinking Missouri controls the tempo. They go through some slumps, but they fight back out of it. It's close, down to the wire. I think Missouri wins this game 83-79. 4-point game.
I like it. I would take that 100 out of 100 times. I think this game starts off kind of ugly, like we talked about earlier. Just all the intangibles going on, I think, is just going to be distracting for the first 5 or 10 minutes of this thing. It's going to it's gonna be ugly. But I think second half Missouri settles in. They kind of force the tempo, make Kansas speed up a little bit. They hit some shots. I think they win 74-71.
Who's your leading scorer from Missouri?
Give me Noah Carter. 19.
Oof. I think Hodge. Splash home the threes. I think it's going to be balanced for Missouri. Balanced scoring. Don't worry about who's getting the shots. Just get it to the open guy.
Mm-hmm.
Let's make some baskets.
Can you imagine beating Kansas in that atmosphere?
I want it. I need it.
My body's ready.
I think Grady Dick going to have a good game, though. I think he could go off for like 5 made threes. He's going to keep him in it. We're getting a win. Everybody's been posting about the rivalry and just posting old memories and stuff. Obviously, the Marcus Denman game, all that stuff. And, of course, from the Kansas side, they're posting videos from the win in Lawrence where Phil Pressey got blocked / fouled.
Gets fouled, yes.
At the end of regulation, I think.
2012, yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is just going to be another installment in the lore that is this rivalry, and it's kind of, I don't know, it's meaningful, just kind of resuming what was dormant for a decade.
Yeah, and just, it's like seeing an old friend again, but that's like, I feel like everybody's embracing the rivalry just like it never went away.
Right. Like,
it's like,
this is supposed to be happening.
Yes, it feels right.
Yes, and yeah, to get a win and to see it in person is something I think we will remember till the day we die.
That's what I'm talking about. All right, leave your predictions in the comments, or if you got a nice story from the Mizzou-Kansas rivalry over the years, let us know in the comments. And we are going to move on to football. Before we recap the whole season and give our thoughts, we have a couple transfer updates. Hiron White, offensive lineman, out of the Mizzou program. He had been injured this year, but was the starter before he got injured. And so he's not coming back.
Yeah, I'm a little curious about that one. Sounded like they were going to apply for a medical red shirt with him since he missed the season. But he is going to be a grad transfer. I know Armand Mimbu was playing really well for a true freshman at right tackle, and so don't know if Hiron White felt like there was some competition there or what. Who knows? There could be a million things going on, but he's gonna be played somewhere else.
Any transfers out?
I think we talked about everybody last week, so I think that's 10 total transfers out.
Yeah,
sounds like they're expecting maybe 10, maybe like 15-ish total. We may not have any more really until after the bowl game, or maybe even spring ball. It's possible guys may not like where they are on the depth chart, that kind of stuff. So, but for now, I think the biggest wave is probably over at this point.
Now, as far as players who have transferred from other schools that Missouri might be looking at, the drama has already started to begin with the quarterback position. There was the Pittsburgh quarterback who was rumored to maybe have a connection with Missouri. There's the NC State quarterback who was there when Drinkwitz was the offensive coordinator, and he recruited him to some extent.
Yeah, there's, last week we were kind of talking about it, like kind of will Missouri make a play at a quarterback, and what that kind of means for the current room. I think you can kind of tell based on the quality of offer sometimes, like, is this a Jack Abraham type ad, kind of a depth ad? Or is this someone to come in and win the job? Because I think that those are two very different additions to like your locker room and then the morale that's going on. Like, are we going to have a quarterback competition with 3 guys potentially? We're probably going to find that out pretty soon here. But yeah, Missouri has definitely been looking at a couple of quarterbacks. You mentioned Keaton Slovis. He started his career at USC in California. It was good there. Had some really good wide receivers that he was throwing to. Transferred to Pitt, and then there was like a rumor that came out pretty much immediately when the transfer portal opened a few days ago that Phil Jerkovic from Boston College was going to transfer to Pitt, and Slovis, was going to transfer to Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the first part of that happened. Phil Jerkovic transferred from Boston College, immediately committed to Pitt, and Slovis is still looking for where he's going to go, but it definitely seemed like Missouri was very involved there, could still be. And then you mentioned
Leary.
Devin Leary, who's been the quarterback at NC State. He's been there for 4 years. Had a really, really productive junior season, threw for like 3,500 yards or something like that, 30-something touchdowns.
35 touchdowns, only 5 interceptions.
Very much a pocket passer for sure, but really talented, like arm talent for sure. And yeah, Drinkwitz was the OC when he was being recruited, and I think he was there maybe even his redshirt freshman year. So clearly they know each other, and I think even in a press conference, Drinkwitz kind of acknowledged that he knew he was in the transfer portal and stuff. So I'm sure Missouri's taking a hard look at both of those guys.
Yeah, but I mean, we're having similar conversations to last offseason where what type of quarterback, I mean, you alluded to that, is it there's no matter even if you bring in Leary, there's still question marks and conversations with Cook, Horn, and whoever else you bring in all the way up until week 1, or unless the coaching staff is like publicly announces something. So
they're going to have to add someone, I think, because obviously Jack Abraham, he is 40 years old and is graduating, and
I think he's physically not allowed to be on college campuses anymore.
Yeah, it's a crime now. And Tyler Macon is transferring, so they've got literally Brady Cook, Sam Horn, and Jabari Johnson coming in as, 2 of those guys are freshmen basically. So you're gonna have to add somebody. It's just who is it going to be, and what kind of experience do they have? Because if you're adding a Keaton Slovis or a Devin Leary, the expectation, I'm sure, from their party is I'm coming in to win the job.
Yeah, and it's just going to feel like deja vu. It's going to feel like I'm repeating myself when it's like, okay, and you're not, if from Missouri's standpoint, you're not guaranteeing these guys the starting job. There's just no reason to. And
it's probably why one of these 2 guys hasn't already committed, because I'm sure if the job was super open, then I bet we would have already had one of these 2 guys. It would have been that straightforward.
And it seems like, I mean, what we saw last year was there's teams just kind of waiting in the wings. Like that LSU, the way they went about things with Daniels was like, as soon as stuff started heating up between him and Mizzou, LSU swooped in and the conversation was over. So there's still a long way to go, and you got to expect Leary at least to have a lot of suitors calling on him.
Yeah, it sounds like Illinois is a player for him as well. I think his brother plays there.
Another big name that announced he had a Mizzou offer in the transfer portal is former Vanderbilt running back Ramon Davis, 1,000-yard rusher this past season, multiple 100-yard games. Kind
of a similar situation with running back. It's like kind of a lot of question marks in that room. Cody Schrader's coming back. DeVorest Jones is kind of a rising freshman who's going to be involved. Elijah Young is there but has never really made an impact. So you got some bodies there, but you kind of need to add somebody, and we'll see what happens there.
Okay, anything else transfer related that we need to touch on?
I think that's pretty much it. Oh, I forgot to say DJ Coleman has said he's going to go the NFL route. He's going to start. He's going to forego the bowl game.
I see.
Go to the NFL.
Okay, good luck to him. Speaking of the bowl game, I thought we should talk about that a little bit. Mizzou is going to play Wake Forest in the Gasparilla Bowl in Tampa, Florida. Gasparilla Bowl.
Gasparilla.
What is that, Kyle? I ask you.
I literally have no idea.
What does that mean, Gasparilla?
Sarsaparilla?
Nope, nothing to do with sarsaparilla.
Totally different. I don't know.
I'll tell you.
Okay.
I read this, and I'm not even gonna. I'm gonna try to do it off the top of my head. Gasparilla is some kind of Tampa-based club, basically.
Okay.
That is just about city spirit, and they dress up as pirates, and they do events to just get everybody happy to be in Tampa.
Like a Buccaneer?
Exactly like a Buccaneer.
That's literally the greatest thing I've ever heard of.
That's what they do, I guess. So they do the bowl game.
How do they come up with the funds for that?
Well, they have had sponsors in the past. So it was the Beefo Brady or something like that. Gasparilla Bowl at one point.
And now Tom Brady's there, so they couldn't use his name.
Exactly. It was the Tom Brady Gasparilla Bowl. The Gasparilla Bowl has had, big name sponsors in the past, but currently it's just the Gasparilla Bowl.
That's definitely one that kind of eludes me whenever I'm thinking of this like level of bowl games.
Yeah. You don't think of the Gasparilla
Bowl? That's not one that usually I'm like, oh man, I would love to go there.
Okay, so that's the Gasparilla Bowl for you.
Okay.
Now, there was all controversy. It was Controversy City on Twitter for like 3 days because Mizzou football was scared to play Kansas in the Liberty Bowl. What are your thoughts on that, Kyle?
I don't know. Yeah, I agree with you. It's kind of exhausting, and I'm not sure that that even happened. It very well could have. That Missouri was like, yeah, we're good. We'll play you guys in 2 years.
Yeah. We
want to sell tickets for that. We don't want to resume this pretty large rivalry in a meaningless bowl situation and not be able to make any profit from it. And,
if you're meeting in the college football playoff, it's a little bit different.
Of course.
Yeah.
And we have all these players who are not going to be on our team that have been here all season long, and you had your best year ever. Congratulations, yes. You won 6 games.
Like Coach Drink said, you haven't been to a bowl in 12 years. You might not understand how this works anymore. But you don't just say we want to play Mizzou and then that's what happens.
Yeah, I'm sure the Liberty Bowl would have loved that.
Yeah.
But it just didn't make sense. It was
just so many bad takes on Twitter about this. And obviously I'm biased from the Mizzou perspective, but
I would have been fine to play them. Like if that was the matchup, sure. I'm excited.
I could get up for it.
Give me Kansas. That's fine. But from an administrative point of view, from like the AD, it makes total sense why they were just like, yeah, we're good.
Yeah. And it probably didn't even come down to that like so directly.
Yeah.
But
like you guys even play Kansas, now we're good. It probably didn't even happen like that.
Right. I don't know. I would rather play Wake Forest. I think that's if I'm being completely honest, I would have liked to play Kansas in a bowl game.
Of course.
That would have been very fun. But I can also, like you're saying, understand that all the nuance and dynamics that go into it. This is probably the more correct choice.
I can understand why it did not happen.
Yeah.
And
there was just so many people that, like reputable sports people on Twitter.
Like
just
Barstool Sports.
The reputable institution Barstool Sports, they were making drama about this. Can you believe it?
I can't.
I feel like there was a pretty big
based on
time.
Nothing.
There was a fairly big time writer that I can't even think of off the top of my head that was like fanning the flames.
Yes, he's the one that's where the entire report came from, and I know who you're talking about.
Yeah,
and can't think of his name.
And so it's just like what, like,
yeah.
But it was just like a no lose situation for that type of person.
Yeah,
is like, I'll just make this a big thing. I'll get lots of retweets and lots of clicks, and then nobody will be thinking about this 5 days from now.
Yeah,
that's exactly what happened.
And what's like, I guess what's frustrating is like, there are so many reasons why Missouri could legitimately refuse the game if that's something they're able to even do. Like there are just a lot of reasons that make sense for them to refuse the game without it being like we're afraid.
And when you got the Gasparilla Bowl sitting there,
seriously, I mean, you ever been to Tampa? You ever dressed up as a pirate?
I kind of want to go join the Gasparillas and just promote Tampa.
Me too.
And it's legitimately fun to play an ACC team.
A team you've never played.
Yeah.
Literally, awesome. I think there's only like 5 Power 5 teams Missouri's never played, and Wake Forest was one of them.
Yeah. So now we get to research them a little bit for next week's show.
Yeah, it sounds like they're like really like star quarterback is going to play. So that's,
okay.
Hope y'all are not wanting to win this game.
Well,
we'll see. We'll get there. Yeah, we'll see.
I haven't even looked at their situation at all.
They've had a weird season. Yeah. They got some ups and downs.
Did they maybe play Vanderbilt early in the season?
Yes, and they beat them soundly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Wake Forest. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Demon Deacon.
Oh yeah, basketball, storied history.
Absolutely.
Football, not so much.
True.
Yeah, that's all the bowl game drama. We're playing Wake Forest. It'll be fun.
A little demonic.
Demon Deacon. Yeah. Demon Deacon. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. let's move on to a general recap and give our thoughts on the football season now that it's over. Everything's over except the bowl game. I want to first congratulate you, Kyle, on some predictions from our season preview prediction episode. You said that Kentucky would have a down year compared to last year, be good but not great. You picked Missouri to win that game, which they basically should have.
Pretty much did.
And you said watch out for Tennessee to break out and be second in the East. And you predicted a close win for Mizzou against Arkansas preseason.
Awesome.
You predicted, I would think correctly, that the SEC East would be strong top to bottom, and we did see Vanderbilt upset a few people late. You did predict a 7-5 regular season finish, and I predicted 6-6. Producer Cameron, I was going to see if we could incorporate a clip from that episode, because Kyle just really basically explains what to expect. He's like, at the end of the season, this, like, be ready for this. And it was like, just
I have no memory of
exactly
what this
correct.
is going to be.
If you, it's episode 208, and it's 1 hour, 10 minutes, and like 20 seconds ish. And if you want to think about how we can incorporate that, I can give you a minute.
You gotta.
I know. Should have planned this. I could just play it like and hold it up to the microphone from my phone.
I'll see what I can find first.
Okay. We'll move on from that for now. Okay. So congratulations to you on all your predictions.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, congratulations to you on your 6-6 prediction.
Yeah. Well,
And
I wish
your
it,
perfect score of Arkansas, 29-27.
Thank you. I wish it had been better than 6-6. So give me your off the top thoughts on the season. With that in mind, that we kind of basically predicted pretty close to how it would go.
Yeah, well, I would if I had to guess what you're talking about, and what I said preseason was we very well might end up at like 6-6 and be disappointed, but there's going to be nuances involved as far as like how we got there, and because that's basically exactly what happened. It was like 6-6. If you're just looking at that record, it's like, yeah, we expected better than that, and it's a little disappointing, but the way we got there was like was exciting because we got better as the season went on. Brady Cook got better as the season went on. He's kind of put himself in a position now that we're thinking he might not just be a placeholder for this year. There's things that we liked that went on as the season progressed, and like you talked about when we played Arkansas, was I would much rather get to 6-6 like we did than they did.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where we're at, is like I liked some things I saw this year. Record-wise, though, a little bit disappointing.
Okay, so you mentioned Brady Cook and his strong finish to the season. So I broke it down. The first 7 games of the season, Missouri was 3-4. Brady Cook had passed for 1,400 yards, 6 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. That's about just over 200 yards per game passing. And he had rushed for, at that point, after 7 games, 162 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he is producing 227 yards of offense after 7 games per game, has 8 total touchdowns and 7 interceptions. The last 5 games of the season, Missouri goes 3-2. Brady Cook has 1,000 yards passing, 7 touchdowns, no interceptions, and then 385 yards on the ground and 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So that's an average of 293 yards per game total with 11 touchdowns, 0 interceptions.
Yeah, dramatic improvement as far as his decision-making, his ability to throw downfield, and most importantly, probably his ability to run and to make things happen on the ground.
And the play calling, giving him the opportunity to run.
Yeah.
That happened more.
That's a good point. I think the play calling improved too, and that might not have been fully Coach Drinkwitz.
Right. So Brady Cook, for the season, 65% completion percentage, 2,500 yards passing, 13 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 547 yards rushing, 6 touchdowns. So that's 3,000 yards, 19 total touchdowns, 7 interceptions on the season. I think maybe 2 fumbles lost, 1 fumble lost. I can't remember. So if you told me those numbers at the beginning of the season, sign me up.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about Anthony Richardson in the Discord a little bit. He's
transferring from Florida.
Florida quarterback who's declared for the NFL draft.
Yep.
And you look at his numbers. I mean, obviously, these are a little bit different cases because he's clearly a very athletic guy with a high ceiling. But, I mean, literally had like 50 more rushing yards, like 30 more passing yards or something like that than Brady Cook had on the season. So, Brady Cook is right there with a lot of the SEC's, like stats-wise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I can't – and he got sacked 22 times. I think the offensive line wasn't doing him any favors. Now, I will say that their improvement was part of going 3-2 over the last 5 games. Mm-hmm. But we haven't seen the breast Brady Cook because we haven't seen –
Let Brady cook, right?
Exactly. Because we haven't seen him behind a above average offensive line.
Yeah. I will say he had to play, like, the defense was incredible the first half of the year and was actually when Brady Cook was better, the defense was not as good. So he had to kind of grapple with that a little bit.
Mm-hmm. What do you think?
We turn on these 2 things.
I don't know if it'll
just the LNR.
I don't know if it'll let me while we're recording.
Ooh.
It won't.
Well, no dice then.
Okay. I'll just try to play it from my phone.
Man, all that for nothing.
Good effort.
We appreciate you.
All right. Talk about the running backs for a sec.
Okay. Yeah, Cody.
I've got it queued up if you want me to just play it from my computer.
Yeah, just crank the volume.
Oh, yeah.
So this is me talking about the football team preseason?
Yes.
Okay.
It's good. Don't worry.
Okay.
Wait, what was the mark?
Like
110-20?
Yes. Okay. Lie on floor.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
Talking about running backs for a second.
Talk about running backs. Okay, I'll admit preseason, one thing I got totally wrong was the impact Cody Schrader was going to have on the team.
Yep.
I mean, just imagine, like, you heard it literally every game that Missouri played from the broadcast. Like, the journey that he had from the level that he was playing at is just absolutely unprecedented. So I was not buying that Cody Schrader was going to be involved, especially considering we had Elijah Young, who I thought was going to be the rising star of the room potentially.
And we went out and got Nate Pete.
Exactly.
To come in and...
So it seemed like we had our bases covered there.
Yeah.
And then Cody Schrader came in and kind of stole the show, was basically the number 1 back for most of the year. So credit to him for just continuing to do what he does. And he's coming back next year as well.
Give it a try.
I just want to program this in our brains for 4 months down the road when Missouri wins 6 games and when you just look at the number, that's kind of disappointing. But when you consider the nuances involved, it's going to be a challenging season schedule wise. And somehow it could be even worse. So we could be playing Alabama as our West team, and we're playing Auburn in a down year instead. Somehow this schedule could actually be worse.
I think you nailed it. It was a challenging schedule that could have actually been harder, and just like what you were saying, looking back and saying, 6-6, that's not very fun. I mean, you basically gave the same sentiment. What you correctly predicted what you had said previously.
Yeah, doing Inception here. But yeah, I mean, it's true. I mean, we knew who our opponents were going to be. In the summer, we were playing Auburn, we're playing this team. But when we really looked at, okay, what teams are we playing at home and away, it was like those toss-up games that we really need to win to have a special season or to get to 8-9 wins. We're on the road, and it was just like, man, when you look at this game by game, it's really tough to predict a season that's better than 7 wins.
Yeah.
And that's basically exactly what happened. Missouri had a ton of really close games, had some insane, weird losses, and I feel like by the end of the year, I mean, if Missouri was as good as they were against Arkansas the whole year, they'd probably do win 8 games.
Yeah. Well, it's crazy to look at the SEC now. I was looking through all the SEC bowl matchups, and if Cody Schrader scores against Georgia, and Kentucky doesn't get a first down out of that punt situation,
Pete doesn't fumble in the end zone against Auburn.
That's 3. That's 9 wins.
That easily, at least one of those could have very easily.
Yeah.
2 of those were really, really close.
Right. So I'm looking at South Carolina, who had the huge win over Tennessee. We were so close to that level of a thing against Georgia. So you get Georgia and Auburn or Kentucky, you're sitting there with 8 wins. We're ranked in the top 25 playing Notre Dame in a bowl game. That's what South Carolina's doing.
I didn't even know that. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, South Carolina's 19th and playing Notre Dame in a bowl game.
And we smoked them.
Yeah. And we were, inches in. We were 2 yards total in those 3 games from those being wins.
Yeah.
That's how crazy thin the margin for error is.
I don't know if I should be happy or sad about what we just discussed there, but
it is a little depressing, but also you can think, one of these times we're going to have that season.
Yeah, we're going to have the regression where it's the other way around, but it's why it's kind of silly, and we're going to do it every year, but it's why it's a little bit silly to sit here and be like, well, if we go 6-6, that'll be a little disappointing. But if we win 7 games instead of 6, then I won't want to fire the coach.
Right.
It's just, and we do it every year, and that's fine. There's really no reason not to, just to talk about it. But there's just so much that happens in a season. There's injuries, and there's weird events, and there's bad officiating, and there's just so many millions of things that can happen that can shape your opinion of what happened and whether it was justified. And I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like we have more players to talk about and stuff, but I don't want to get off this train of thought. It is very much what Coach Drinkwitz was talking about in that press conference recently about the momentum behind the program, and a team can go from 6-6 to 8 wins. We just showed so easily.
Mm-hmm. Some of those toss-up games are at home next year.
The same thing. I mean, you are not that much further away from 10 wins. And I don't think very many people predicted Kansas State's season that they had.
That's true.
In the beginning of the year. And they showed who they were against Missouri.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of times, and we're kind of going off the rails here a little bit, but especially in college football, it seems like teams fizzle out at the end of the year, a lot. Really good teams are just yep, we lost a game or 2. We're not going to meet the goals that we had.
Tennessee.
And we're just going to not be as good anymore. And, or maybe injuries obviously play a huge part in college football too. So I feel like it's so incredibly beneficial just to be that team that gets better throughout the year, that just keeps trying as hard as they can every game. It's almost impossible not to win 6 games if you're just improving and trying, legitimately playing your best every game. And that's what Missouri did this year. And honestly, that's one thing I got to hand it to Brady Cook. That's one thing I love about him. He clearly wants to win as bad as anyone out there. He's not going to let this team, stop caring about the season.
Yeah. And I think that's what we've seen so far from Coach Drinkwitz is he is instilling that attitude in the team. I mean, the first year was weird at the end of the year with COVID and rescheduled games and everything like that. I'll give him a pass on that one. But year 2, year 3, even with the obstacles and stuff, I mean, we saw the defensive turnaround in year 2. We saw the team not quit in year 3 and, win a rivalry game. So all of that stuff is very promising to me. We left off talking about the running backs and how Schrader just kind of made the job his and wouldn't let it go, basically. Mm-hmm. 157 attempts rushing for 691 yards and 8 touchdowns for him. And then Brady Cook, your second leading rusher on the season, over 500 yards and 6 touchdowns. And then Pete basically matching his previous career high with 95 rushes for 400 yards and 2 touchdowns. And unfortunately, Elijah Young has the same rushing stat line for the season as Luther Burden.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily something I wanted to be able to say at the end of the season.
Yeah, a little bit of a question mark.
And then moving on to receivers, Dominic Lovett, 56 receptions, 850 yards, fourth in the SEC, 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, obviously I'm a little frustrated with how that story has gone recently, but obviously Lovett was the number one breakout candidate that we talked about. Preseason, he was a talented freshman. He had a good freshman year, and kind of fit the mold for a guy that was going to break out, and he definitely did that and more.
Barrett Bannister, 37 receptions, 408 yards. And then Luther Burden, 38 receptions, 329 yards, and 6 receiving touchdowns.
Mm-hmm. Plus 2 rushing and a punt return.
Yep.
So, yeah, Luther Burden.
9 total touchdowns for the true freshman.
Yeah. I feel like his season was pretty close to what we expected. I feel like we were kind of setting the over-under around like 500 receiving yards, and you predicted that he would be under that.
I said easy under.
Yeah.
And I actually went back and listened. I wrote down, I put actual numbers on it. I was giving my thoughts on like what his career progression would look like to be a success, like a huge success at Mizzou. Mm-hmm. And I said that would start with something like 30 receptions for 260 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, and he was better than that this year.
Yep. But not insanely better, like 38, 329, and 6. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, surpassed my expectations with just his, like, basically sheer will to get in the end zone.
Seriously, yeah. His physicality is unlike anything I've seen in a wide receiver really in a long time, if ever, at Mizzou. And, look at what Dominic Lovett did his freshman year. Doesn't even touch what Luther Burden did this year.
Yeah.
So, absolutely, Luther Burden, everything about his profile fits a huge jump next year.
And the number 1 receiver position just opened up.
Yep. So, absolutely great things in store for Luther Burden, just like we thought would be the case.
Preseason, we did talk about Chance Looper, and then he missed the season because of illness. So we'll see what happens with him. Hopefully he can bounce back from that and be able to play again. And filling in with his absence and other injuries throughout the season, we did mention Mekhi Miller being a guy that could step up and see a little bit of playing time, and he did. And he performed admirably in his spots and some really big spots. Yeah,
he's a guy I'm super excited about going forward.
Harrison Mevis on the season, perfect on extra points, 31 of 31. Only 21 of 27 on field goals. Little bit of a down year for him compared to what we've seen previously.
Felt like a lot of his makes were 50 plus.
So yeah, I wanted to point out he was 4 for 6 from 50 plus.
Wow.
And also 4 for 6 from 20 to 29 yards.
There's an important kick in there somewhere.
Yeah.
One of those misses.
Yeah, so I'd really like to see him 6 for 6, 20 to 29 yards, but I don't know. I don't feel like we're...
It's like, can we even argue? Can we even complain about Mevis?
That's what I'm...
like, not really, but...
Not quite yet.
Yeah.
I don't want to get there.
Is he coming back next year?
Yeah.
I think so. I think he got 1 year left.
I think so, yeah.
He'd probably go pro if he wanted to right now.
Potentially.
He's probably as good as some NFL kickers.
Probably. If he was, if his only misses on the season were from 50 plus, he might consider it.
Seriously.
Some NFL teams, though, are going to be like, yeah, you got to be automatic under 30.
That's very true.
And then last but not least, the defense exceeded my expectations as a whole unit.
Oh, yeah.
Defensive line probably more than any other position group. Honestly, blew me away.
Yep.
Isaiah McGuire with 7 sacks, Coleman with 5.5, and Martez Manuel coming in with 4 sacks.
Yep. Yeah, when we previewed the defense kind of unit by unit in the preseason, it was like, okay, we're really hyping these guys up. They better follow through. And they did that for sure. And, we knew they had talent. They had experience. They got old quickly in the transfer portal. And Isaiah McGuire had a great season last year and followed up with maybe even a better one. So he's going to be playing on Sundays next year for sure.
Your tackle leaders on the season, Jalen Carlisle with 72, Tyron Hopper with 65, and Joseph Charleston with 52.
Yeah, 2 just fantastic additions that were just immediate contributors, Hopper and Charleston for sure. Would love to see both of them return next year.
Yes,
I think
please.
Charleston is for sure returning.
Yeah. Passes defended, Chris Abrams-Drain with 13 and Rakestraw with 12. Jalen Carlisle with 4. So we talked about that last week a little bit. Just they
No-fly
kind
zone.
of quietly were shutting guys down.
Yeah.
And then Dalen Carnell with 3 interceptions on the season, Carlisle with 2, and then 5 players tied with 1 interception each. Can you name all 5 of them, Kyle?
Probably not. Rakestraw?
He had 1.
Give me Charleston.
He had 1.
Okay. Hopper? Did you already name him?
Hopper had 1.
Okay. I remember we saw both of those interceptions in the first game of the year. Oh,
there's 2 other players that each had 1 interception.
Did Norwood have 1?
Norwood had 1. There's 1 player left that had 1 interception.
Oh my gosh. I'm trying to think if there's any D-line interceptions. I can't think of one. Any linebackers? I don't think Chad Bailey had one, did he?
Mm-mm.
No. Okay. I don't know. I'll just have to say.
Can he go 5 for 5?
I'll probably just guess like Jelani Williams or something.
That is correct. Jelani Williams was the 5th. Nailed it. Lots of interceptions on the season, though.
Yeah.
That's 10 right there.
Yes, Blake Baker, thank you for coming to Mizzou.
Oh, another thing that I said in the season preview was 4 wins is what it would take for me. Only 4 wins is what it would take for me to start thinking about what are we doing here.
Yeah.
With Coach Drink. And then I said 8 wins, you sign him to an extension immediately.
They did that.
They did with not 8 wins, but I'm still on board with all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Back to defense, though. Overall, I think there was a few. I mean, obviously the Tennessee game was a disaster, but what are you going to do there? Outside of that, I was pretty impressed all the way through. There were times where they desperately needed the offense to do something to just kind of show we're not out of this.
Yeah.
But to the defense's credit, they never really, outside of Tennessee, they never really gave up on a game. They never like showed what you see sometimes of like
frustration.
Oh, the offense is doing nothing for us, so what are we even doing? We're shutting this down.
Yeah, it was actually pretty amazing that they were able to kind of keep the effort intact.
Yeah, because I wouldn't have blamed them in some of those positions where the offense was doing nothing all second half.
Kept us in games we had no business being in, really.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty well the season in a nutshell.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm glad we kind of are putting a positive spin on this thing at the end of the year. I mean, obviously we could be in a lot worse places right now, and ups and downs, some really brutal moments emotionally, and just watching the offense be terrible. There was some frustrating times, but ultimately, I'm all right where we're at.
I'm just so thankful that we had good football to watch down the stretch, because
Mm-hmm.
early in the season we were watching some really bad games, and all the way through the Vanderbilt game, it was like, oh my gosh, this is ugly. Is this team ever going to be fun to watch again?
Yes.
And they were, thank goodness.
Yeah.
Because this conversation would be going a lot different if that hadn't happened. But the what a change from that Vanderbilt game that was just 2 bad teams playing each other to the Arkansas game.
For both of those teams.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, an Arkansas win, even in like a disappointing season, can like salvage a lot for me personally. I would just give me that Arkansas win.
Yeah. Imagine I'm trying to think when exactly the Drinkwitz extension was announced.
I think it happened was it the day after the South Carolina win?
Yes.
Like a Sunday morning, or maybe I don't know. Maybe it was the week after the South Carolina win.
Yeah. I don't know. I wish going back to right after the Vanderbilt game, be like, hey, in 2 weeks, Drinkwitz is going to get an extension.
We would have been like, okay.
Yeah, that's not a good sign. And some people still thought that, but there's going to be some people that always think that.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, though, I think it's what we thought was going to happen. And there was definitely a point in the season, though, where it looked like we were going to only get 5 wins, and Brady Cook had played himself out of the quarterback conversation for next year.
Yeah, the bowl game looked completely out of the picture there for at least a week or 2 stretch.
Yeah. Once we realized we have to beat Arkansas or like Tennessee, which wasn't going to happen, but Oof, it was scary moments there for a minute.
Pulled it out.
But, next year could be the Schrader scores and Pete doesn't fumble and the
Nevis
Kentucky
makes the
doesn't
field goal.
That could have happened.
Yeah,
Kentucky doesn't get a first down.
Yeah, no like insanely weird punt special teams disaster. I don't know. That'll probably happen every year. It seems to happen every year. Some weird special teams thing that's like you can't even explain to someone if you're like telling them what happened.
Yeah. Like seeing something for the first time ever in a Mizzou game.
Just inventing ways to lose.
That probably will never end. But, we'll
worry about that tomorrow.
Yeah. 2013, all's well that ends well. They did kick a field goal off the upright, but still made it to the SEC championship game. That's all you can ask for. We'll be right back there soon, I think. I hope.
I think so.
Any other parting thoughts? Anything we need to ponder? We'll have a lot of conversations this offseason. Probably way too many of them revolving around the quarterback position.
Yeah.
Be ready for that. That it then?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Special thank you to our Patreon supporters at the $10 level and above. Britt Treese, Brian Smith, Ryan Demore, Tristan, Ben Smith, Parker, Daddy JD, Luis Hernandez, Tim Keynes, Tyler Harsel, Brandon Garofalo, Brandon Hanks. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. We truly appreciate you. You can find this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcast. We are on Twitter at Mizzou Sports Pod, and you can email us at MissouriSportsPod@gmail.com.
You can find our T-shirts and stickers on our online shop, MissouriSportsPod.BigCartel.com.
If you're listening to this and you're going to be at the game on Saturday and you see us wearing our MSP gear, feel free to come say hi.
We'll probably be in the nosebleed somewhere.
We'll be way up high.
Just look up, you'll see us.
We're going to try to be there early, really take in all the sights and sounds. But if you see us and you want to say hi, that'd be great.
We'd love that.
Come on over. Thank you everyone for listening. We will see you next week after a win.